I love therapy, and in fact, I've been going to therapy since I was around 6 years old. Though I talk about therapy a lot and may interview some therapists on the show on occasion, nothing that is said in this podcast should be considered a replacement for therapy. If you are struggling, I urge you to please seek guidance from a therapist because you are absolutely worth it. Hello, everyone. You are listening to Wine, Dine, and 69, a podcast about dating, relationships, sex, and self-love. I am your host, Rachel Dalton. As always, I hope everyone is doing well. This is going to be a super short intro today. I am supposed to catch a train in a couple hours. I'm gonna take a long weekend out of the city and take in the country air. And I have a fuck ton, quite honestly, to do before then. I have a few things to wrap up for work. I have application to finish, a module, and oh yes, I have to record this episode and pack as well. So lots to do, lots to fit in. We're gonna keep this short and sweet. I'm super excited for today's episode. I am going to be speaking with Yuval Man about Sensual Alchemy. It's a fantastic conversation. This will be the last of the summer bonus episodes that I am airing. I am going to be going back to the regular bi-weekly format, 2 episodes a month, 1 storyteller, 1 expert, which it'll be good, I think. I think that it's more manageable for me, and it'll also open up time. I have a few really exciting things lined up for when I am ready to start interviewing again in probably like December 2021 or early 2022. But I'm still taking some time to just like work through the stuff that I have and line up some amazing new things. There's some pretty cool and exciting things coming up. I'm really excited to share them with you. I did want to apologize in advance for the audio for this episode. We're doing it live, folks. And it was a process of trying to figure out Zoom and the settings and everything. So I think I have it figured out. And hopefully, fingers crossed, I think this should be the last episode that's in my backlog that might have issues with audio. But never say never, I suppose. Okay, I think that's it. Last thing, please follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. And at some point, sometime by the end of this year, I will post a TikTok. I think that has to be like my new end of 2021 resolution. God help me. So follow me there if you want to witness that travesty whenever it occurs. I'm sure it'll be very amusing for everyone, most of all myself, I hope. Anyway, okay, I think that's it. If you have any questions, you can email at winedine@allportsopen.com. And with that being said, I'm going to cut to a quick commercial break, and please enjoy my conversation with Yuval.
What is it, honey?
It's that darn ghost again. He just won't leave us alone. I guess we're just going to have to move.
No, wait. Don't worry. We're not moving. He is.
Who are you going to call?
Blockbusters. Actually, we know nothing about catching ghosts other than what we saw in that old cartoon. But if you want a podcast where we talk about film, TV, random tangents that leave you wondering what the hell was that all about, and the occasional nugget of wisdom, then we're the ones for you. And if you act now, you can listen to our entire back catalogue for free.
Did you say free?
Yes, I did. So go now to your nearest podcatching device, shake off the ectoplasm, and download us today. Warning, listening to Blockbusters can lead to stomach cramps from laughing, headaches from attempting to remember what tangent they went on this time, and a worn-out section of your device's screen/keyboard as you smash the replay button over and over until the next episode arrives. If your Blockbusters episode lasts longer than 4 hours, tell your doctor so he can listen as well.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I am here today with my guest, Yuval Man. How are you today?
I'm doing beautiful. How are you?
I'm doing well, and I love that answer. So I'm so excited to talk to you today. We're going to get into some awesome conversation about how to identify yourself through sexuality. So let's kind of start off with you telling me a bit about who you are, your background, and what drew you to this work.
I'm Yuval. I am originally from Israel. I'm 31. And those are some of the dry and boring technical details. I've been a Jewish Orthodox So I came from a very religious background. I've been traveling the world since 2012. I've been to the army for 3 years in artillery combat. And for the past 10 years, I've been doing a lot of different things. But 80% of my time was always dedicated to what I was mostly fascinated by, which was sexuality, relationships, communication, and yeah, women. And yeah, this beautiful, incredibly complex creature called women. Yeah. And so I've never thought that I'm going to work in this field or help people communicate themselves better with the world. But it kind of happens. It's the first thing that I'm doing in my life that feels that it happens through me rather than something that I planned.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just a few years ago traveling around the world with suits and bottom-up shirts and raising money from really rich people in Southeast Asia for startups in Israel and the United States. So I've never thought in my life that I'm gonna actually talk with people about sexuality and relationships, and yeah, here we are. It happens.
Yeah. How did that journey kind of start? I mean, I know that your upbringing was really traditional, right?
Yes, it was. I never felt connected to divinity and God through what I was experiencing then. It was very much devoted from heart. I don't know if you're familiar, but these days, in many religions, by the way, not just in Judaism, but the parts of the religion that is really about the individual direct experience with God is usually forbidden, like the Kabbalah or Hasidic Judaism. You have the same things in Christianity and Islam, and it makes sense. You know, the system has to bring a story in which your individual oneness with God has to come through a mediating entity, the church, and the Judaism, you have the rabbi or the community or whatever. And so I was not born into a religious family. We were secular in the beginning, actually. My parents were spiritual seekers, hippies, psychedelics, all the shebang.
Okay.
And then at some point, my dad had cancer and we switched. And it was a lot thanks to me, actually. I was the little spiritual seeker of the family, and I wanted to, to do some rituals and pray and do all kinds of things. And so there was a process that started when I was 10 and continued. My family is still very much in the Judaism community, but no matter what institute I was going to, I was always doubtful and never felt connected. It didn't make sense to me that I need to do certain things and behave in a certain way for me to have a direct experience, which I've never had. And so finally I found my way out, and I went to the army, and there I dropped my connection to God and forgot about it completely. And I identified very much with my intellect and rational thinking, and continue living my life from nihilistic, hedonistic kind of viewpoints. And I just wanted to, when I finished with the army, I just wanted to travel and have fun. And that took me to very interesting places. And here we are, yeah.
Amazing. What a cool journey. And I love that, you've experienced so much, so many different ways of thinking. And I think that's really healthy. It allows you to really have a wide breadth of information and knowledge, and to make your own decisions about the world and how you see it.
Yeah, I mean, now, I kind of like circled back to doing from the heart. I felt that a about a year ago, I had this spontaneous heart opening, and just for some whatever gracious reason, I met God again, you can say. I mean, I know that some people are a bit confused about what the word God means, so I'm going to clarify. God for me is placeholder for us linguistic beings to try to have a symbol or a word, something that we can look at for the unexplainable, for the entire process, the wholeness of life itself. And so I re-met this thing through my heart, and started identifying less with my thoughts and my rational minds. And so my work with people really took a turn, and now it has a completely different nature to it. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And you have a website, and you work here to train and teach people how to get connected with themselves through sex and sensual alchemy. And so I kind of want you to tell me, like, what is sensual alchemy? Start like kind of where that idea came from and what that education looks like.
Sure. So there are two main realms that I'm kind of like immersed into when it comes to my work with people. One is what you might say this sensual world, which sensual is not just in the sexual aspect of it, but everything that we can sense with our senses. And so I help people re-examine the relationship with sexuality and relationships and communication, and so they can find meaning and find deeper connection to themselves, to their partners, to their bodies, to life, through re-examining the relationship with their sexuality. So using whatever experience they're having in their sensual life to, have a richer, deeper, more meaningful, more joyful life experience. Which is the sensual alchemy that I'm working on. You can say that it's the tantric way. My background is not in tantra, but it's the idea of tantra, which a lot of people confuse sometimes, because in the Western culture, it got very much connected to sexuality. But actually, in the original scriptures, it has nothing to do with sex. It's just about how to use every moment, every life experience, everything that we experience through our senses, and make it your spiritual work. Make it your, devote that to the divine. And sex is part of it, because sex is just part of life, what we experience with our senses. And there is the other part of it, which is work of the heart. That work I do mostly one-on-one with people, and through my writings and other mediums. And there, it's really put simply, it's just plugging together into a space of heart openness, to experiencing life less through our mind and more through our hearts. And that involves a lot of major changes in how people start experiencing their relationship with themselves, their relationship with God and the divine, their relationship with their partners, their work, and everything else. So yeah, it depends on the human beings and what kind of experience that they're having and where they're at in their journey. But yeah, it's kind of like the book that I do.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I think it's so important. I mean, there are different levels of sex, right? There's sex that is purely physical and that is just about getting off, orgasm. And then there's sex that, you might have with a partner that's connected sex, but then there's like this extra level of connectedness that can be even beyond that, which is like almost like spiritual.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we walk around life and we are hungry for something, like why are we even relating? Why having sex? Why are we going out there and seeking partners and to open our hearts, even though it's pretty, often a very confusing and painful process, The reason is because we are hungry for something. We are hungry for that unity and love that we can feel with another person. The thing is that we get stuck on the myth or the method, which means we get into relationships and this other person opens our heart in certain ways and helps us feel this unity that we were so craving for. But then our direct experience with that divinity, with that openness, with that love depends on another person. And so, where will you be tomorrow? And where will you be on Tuesday? And what if you die? What if you leave me? What if you decide to go and play with someone else?
Mm-hmm.
What then? How will I be connected to love then? And so something beautiful happens when we realize that love and unity that we are seeking is already within us. And that state of being, this sweetness and joy that we're experiencing is we love everything and everyone suddenly and do crazy things when we are in love. That state of mind, that state of being is already existing within all of us. It's just that we experience a glimpse of it through connecting with other people. But there are other ways in which we can experience that being in love all the time. And in our daily life, whether we are in a relationship or not, how long we're in a relationship, what is the behavior of our partner towards us and how they trigger us and all of that kind of things. And I think that you're right when you said there is this physical level and there is the social dynamic level in which we not just satisfy our physical needs of orgasms, but we also satisfy some deeper emotional needs in that, like connectedness and intimacy and so on. But then there's even higher planes of, not higher in hierarchical level, but just deeper, more spiritual planes of reality in which we meet each other's soul and we connect on such a level that we really experience somewhat of a religious experience together through sexuality.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I wonder, I feel like that's so rare to have that level of spiritual connection during sex. How do you work with, singles, couples, different types of people to try to reach that? What does that practice look like?
So as with every spiritual practice, there is this paradox of, there is this beautiful story of a Zen master, and his devotee or his student came to him and asked, Master, how long will it take me to get enlightened? And he says 10 years. And then the student says, what if I'm gonna surpass all the students in the Zen monastery here, and I'm gonna study all day, all night, gonna just meditate for 24/7, just gonna really give it my all? And the master says 20 years. And then he says, but what if I really, really, really put everything into it? I'm not gonna eat, I'm not gonna sleep, I'm not gonna just. And then he says 30 years, and just keep going and adding more numbers.
Right.
And I love this story because when it comes to a more spiritual attitude towards life, there is this paradox in which obviously you're engaging in life and you're engaging spiritually because you want to get something, right? You're seeking something. There is a reason why you go to and work and you start projects, or you go into a relationship, or you have sex with someone, or you go and do your spiritual practices. You want to get somewhere. The thing is that keeping our eye on that target and trying to aim somewhere, to get enlightened, to get more spiritual sex, to get better in the bedroom, to get X, Y, Z, is what's really holding us back from being here right now, which is where divinity actually is. And so something really beautiful happens with people when I help them flip that view from looking to somewhere in the future and flipping it to this moment right now, because the future hasn't happened and you have no idea how it's going to unfold. And the past already happened, so it has no relevancy. And everything happens right now. You don't need to be a monk or a highly spiritual being, whatever other nonsense. You can just be anyone when you drop back into the moment and you bring the fullness of your awareness into right now, the sensations in your body, your breath, your presence of your partner, looking in their eyes and meeting God through them, seeing their soul instead of only their body, and really dropping into the moment, then this is how it happens, and you do it over and over again, and you become more aware and more present, and you explore that reality for yourself, and you will experience more and more of it. There are practices like in spiritual teachings or in life. There are ways to do things better, but it's just what it is. It's a practice. Practice for what? Practice to experiencing more of what is right now, And so there are practices like breathing, breathing deeply and slowly with open chest. And there are practices like tantric practices like sublimation of sexual energy. So when you, even if you're alone or with your partner, and you feel the sexual tension rising up in your, in your reproductive area, you consciously move that life force, move that energy up your spine and to your heart and to your partner's heart, and then to both of your minds, and and up and up. And you constantly do it with breathing and with sublimation of that. It's called sexual energy sublimation and transmutation, depends which tradition you're coming from. And the idea is to take that life force energy that is powerful within us, and you don't need to be super spiritual for that. You can just look at it as a peak state that is happening in your body right now, and you can take that and move that up your body to drive more connectedness, more intimacy, and divinity into the connection.
That's beautiful. I guess I wonder, what about if there are people, I know that you have a lot of thoughts, and you mentioned that this is something you could talk about. So what about people who want something really deep and connected, and they're really searching for that, but they keep finding themselves in these casual relationships or with people who don't want that connection, or are really just focused on a physical or like a friends with benefits situation? Like, how does somebody who really hungers for that more connected relationship, both in and out of the bedroom, how can they work to find that?
Well, I mean, obviously that's a very individual kind of process and journey, and it depends where you start and where you end. But I can give a few points that that worked for me in my subjective journey, in my subjective experience. And for me, what was really a big transition was to first stop measuring the importance and the depth of relationships by their length. We have this false idea that somehow meeting someone for one night is less divine or important or deep than staying for someone for 10 years. And once we start looking at people as souls and hearts, beyond their personality and beyond the time to spend together, and really look deeper and realize that we meet whoever we need to meet in this lifetime. And there is no such thing as people who are less spiritual than you. There is just human beings who are just as divine and just as godly in you, once you're open and ready to meet that. And when you're open to that and you look in their eyes and you see their soul, it doesn't really matter if you're spending 1 minute in time, 10 years in time, once you meet them with your heart, because you can do incredible, long-lasting, meaningful, impactful things together in one night, So I would encourage people to switch their attitudes, not to what kind of relationship am I looking for, but rather who am I in a relationship? What am I bringing in? Am I looking for sexual gratification, or am I ready to deeper level of intimacy? Am I ready for deeper level of connectedness? When I'm looking at another person, am I looking for how can this human being satisfy my needs, physical, emotional needs? Or am I ready to flip the script and be like, how can I help? How can I love you today? And I feel that even that switch changes the reality for a lot of people, because they stop seeing this, oh, this is not a serious relationship. I want something else. We all have this predicament as human beings. Everything that we need happens right now, but we want something else. I want different relationship. If I'm not in a relationship, I want to be in one. If I'm in one, I want to get out of one. If I have that much of money, I want that kind of much money. If I want, if I'm in this country, I want to go to this country. Everything in order for us to satisfy this hunger that we started the conversation with. Until there is a point in which we realize that all that we are seeking is right here.
Yeah.
And that the person that is in front of me right now is the person that is the doorway for God for me right now. Let's explore that. Sometimes it will include sex, sometimes it will include a cuddle, sometimes it will include a beautiful conversation and a friendship that will come out of it, and who knows, but I'm open, I'm here. I'm not trying to build, mountains in my head and some fantasies of where this relationship is going and will we have sex or not, and how will I make it so we will if I want to, or we're going to get married, have kids, whatever. Who cares? It happens right now. Even if we continue and get into a relationship that you quote unquote want and desire, some other challenges will come. You'll get into a relationship and you have a honeymoon phase, and then some other challenges will arise, and then
definitely.
So from that perspective, it doesn't really matter what path are you choosing to take. If you go to this direction, some things will happen, some challenges will arise, some lessons will be learned. And if you go to that direction, the same things will happen. So instead of trying to constantly mold reality into our own likings and what do I want? So is this relationship enough for me? Or instead of just, here we are, this moment, right now. How can I fuck this moment open to God?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that's so difficult to do sometimes, especially if you're somebody who gets in their head so frequently. But it's such good practice, and it's so important I'm trying to remind myself of that all the time, of how important this moment is.
It's about remembering, because it's not work, and it's not something that is difficult. What's difficult is us judging ourselves for not being in the moment. That's what's making it difficult. But even ultimately, it's just about remembrance. Once it clicked once, and you're like, actually, this is really how it is. Then it's a snowball, So consciousness has just been upgraded. This is how I perceive it. And now when something will come up, you will remember after 10 minutes that, oh, actually, why am I just so caught up in my imagination? Why don't I just be in the moment? Take a breath. Okay, I'm in the moment. Cool. Next time it will be 5 minutes. Next time it will be 1 minute. And next time you're just there.
Sure.
Out of the get-go.
Yeah, that's important. And I think that's a really good point too, is not judging yourself when you're not, just working on practicing on reminding yourself how important it is to try to get back there, but not judging yourself if it doesn't happen easily.
Yeah, because even our forgetfulness is part of the process. It's part of the what is. And I think the beginning, my work revolved around, and still is, the sensual alchemy part is very much about, spicing up things in the bedroom, both, emotionally, physically, spiritually, from a technical perspective as well, from a conceptual perspective, things from like sensual massages to squirting to all kinds of beautiful things. And then,
what's some of the stuff that you look at with your clients?
So on the sensual alchemy part, there is a lot of that, and then a lot of technical stuff with demonstrations. With I was doing a lot of busy with people on the methods. How can you spice things up and have more fun and more pleasure, which is absolutely incredible and important, and I believe in it and stand behind it. But ultimately, I got to the realization after working with people for a while on that level that's way more important than all of that. And if you can make her squirt and how many times she orgasms and and so on and so forth. Way, way, way more important is how much of you is actually there.
Yes.
Because it also happened to me that I myself got stuck in my methods, and I got connected with someone intimately in a beautiful way. And it happened to me once that she stopped me and she was like, I feel like you're just repeating things that you already know. It feels amazing, but I don't want that. I want you.
Yes.
And it was a really beautiful reminder, because it's like, right. Where am I trying to get? And so it's for me, it's kind of like balancing between this, because honestly, even if you're not going to know any of that information, but you just focus the fullness of your attention on being more and more and more in the moment, magic will start happening. And then maybe you're not going to discover right off the bat how to make her squirt or orgasm in different ways, or do a tantric sensual massage, but you're going to gain really deep connection with your partner, and some beautiful things can come out of that. And your natural curiosity will lead you to incredible places and things that are new to both of you, but actually authentic, actually arise from the moment and from the very unique connection that just you and her are sharing. And so there is place for both, but
yeah, that's incredible.
Since I cannot teach technical stuff necessarily on a voice
right
conversation with people, so focus on being more present. That's going to do a lot to your relationship.
I think that's so true. Such an important reminder. Well, when you decided to kind of take this path, what exploration did you do? What research did you do? I mean, I know you mentioned like Tantra, and on your site, I know that you talk about like kink as an exploration thing. Like it really seems like you just dove into trying to learn everything that you possibly could about different ways of connecting through sexuality and identifying yourself through sexuality. Like, talk to me about that process and what that was like.
So it started when I was fresh out of the army. I had sex for the first time when I was 22. So I was quite inexperienced and not very, comfortable around women, around sexuality.
Sure.
But that time was so fun that I was like, I remember having this notion that like, that's just what I want to do. And it came together with traveling and meeting different people, getting in and out of relationships, and growing and experimenting and experiencing. I started with reading a lot, because in the beginning I just saw that there was not a lot of information out there available. Like what I could find online was either like very spiritual and the tantra thing that we talked about, that at the time was not my language at all, or there was not much going on. YouTube was not that as huge as it is now. There was and so I read what I could, and started just experiencing for myself, just really rolling my sleeves and just living life and engaging, trying to experience for myself. And so at some point I got really involved in the fetish scene, positive environments like fetish clubs and orgies and sex positive events of sorts that I was either participating or even facilitating for a while. And always, at some point I was in a business trip in Japan, and I saw a bondage show. It's called Shibari. It's a form of art, Japanese bondage art. And I got so fascinated, and also my girlfriend at the time was really drawn to it. So I was like, okay, it's a good opportunity. Let's learn. So I found a master in Tokyo, and I was learning from him for a while. And then over the years, even after our relationship ended, I continued being really fascinated by it. And for a while, I was also doing it as work. I was actually giving sessions and doing some performances. And all of these years, these 10 years, my interaction with sexuality was mostly what I call the dark side.
Okay.
And that was my drive towards, fetish, BDSM, power dynamics. It fascinates me, really fascinated me. This bringing power dynamics into connecting with another being from a conscious place, from a consensual, conscious place, and playing it out and doing the craziest, most outrageous things together. Also, obviously, in a safe and consensual and loving environment.
Right.
And that was really the drive that, was really, yeah.
Why dark side though? You said that that's the dark side.
Dark side is not in any negative way. I know that
Okay.
people have this association with dark as something bad. I think we all have our shadows and dark sides, and all have our light side. And so I'm referring to the more divine, slowness, intimate part of or side of connecting sexually with each other as the light side of it, and the dark is like diving into the the sexual deviancy that is within all of us, and really exploring our deepest, darkest fantasies and weirdness in a safe space.
Definitely. Okay, I see.
Yeah. So when I'm looking back now and connecting the dots, that whole 10 years, this whole involvement with the dark side, with the sensual stuff, was Tantra. I didn't know what Tantra even is back then, but that is Tantra. That is working with the energies that are created when we interact with the world, when we interact with our senses. And no matter where I was, if it was just having sex with a partner at home, or like having a wild night in a fetish club in New York, or sex event of sorts in Berlin or whatever. No matter what I was, for me, it was never about just hedonism and satisfying my needs. I was always really fascinated by the psychological human factor of all of it, and how people relate and connect with each other, and what are the long-term positive influences that can arise from exploring those areas with people. And so I found, for example, what I was really drawn to is the element of healing and help that I was very often meeting through working with someone, or engaging with someone from a place of a power dynamic, a healthy, and dominant submission, or any kind of other power dynamic, either with ropes or without. And what kind of long-term effects it can have on someone's well-being, when I'm bringing my powers and with a lot of love and care and softness combined with my harshness into the space, and what it can create for someone else. So I highly encourage people, exploring that with their partners.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. That difference between the spiritual and just kind of the hunger that we have physically. They seem so separate, but they're also so intricately intertwined, I would say.
Yeah, it's all the same. There was nothing less spiritual in the darkest corners of the fetish club that I was visiting on a very weird, strange night than, being in a beautifully light room with like nice white clothes and like making love, tantric love with someone. This is not more spiritual than the other. It's all spirit.
Yeah, No, I definitely see that. That's a really beautiful way of looking at it. Well, I guess I'm wondering, how can happiness in our sex lives help us identify with ourselves and bring happiness to other areas of our life?
Well, everything has the potential to bring more happiness to our life when we start looking at that as the next lesson, as
Mm.
us signing up to the school of life and taking the curriculum, right? And so, one element of it was like, yeah, I mean, I'm going to spice things up and make my sex life better and learn how to communicate better. And that will eventually add to my overall happiness. But at the same time, getting a little bit deeper, the happiness, and when I'm saying happiness, I'm not talking about a fleeting emotion. I'm talking about a state of being, because
Mhm.
happiness and emotion is coming and going. You don't need to optimize to be happy all the time. I'm talking about happiness as a state of being, which is a more constant thing, potentially. And is when you start looking at things instead of this goal in the future that I want to get to, of like when I will learn to become multi-orgasmic, or I will learn to become a sex god in the bedroom, then I'm going to be happier. But rather, what I'm experiencing right now has to tell me, you know, is it some kind of sexual challenge that I'm having in the bedroom? Is it some kind of challenge connecting intimately with people and showing up and being authentic and vulnerable? Is it being single and feeling a little bit lonely or inadequate and loved, or some body image stuff whatever it is, to re-observe that and re-examine it rather from a place of negativity and, how can I change it? And rather looking at it with eyes of love and being like, hey, well, I'm here and I'm signing up to this school of life. This is my curriculum.
Mm.
Let's see where this is taking me. Because whatever challenge you are experiencing, if you're aware of it and open to receive what is coming for you, is going to put you on a beautiful path of growth. So that pain is important too. And that, I think, is real happiness, is a happiness that is a state of being rather than an emotion. Because happiness that is an emotion, it's always fleeting. It's always depends on something. So I will have this relationship and then I'm going to satisfy myself with that. So I'm going to want the next one. And then I'm going to have this car. I'm going to want the next car, because that happiness is just can never be fully fulfilled. But when we are able to look at reality in this moment as everything that we will ever need, that we really need is here right now, then happiness becomes more of a state of being, more of a constant state of being that we can be in.
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah, that's incredible. And so hard. I think it's so much harder than we think it is in theory. We're like, oh, it's you just meditate or work on staying present, but I feel like it's so much more difficult than that. And again, I love what you said about, being gentle on ourselves when it's not easy. So
It's hard when we see ourselves as a separate entity from the rest of the cosmos, of the rest of reality, and we perceive ourselves as this individual entity trying to survive and make it. But once we get in touch with the reality in which we are part of it all, we are a participant, a joyful participant of it all. That is way more connected. It becomes way easier to surrender and let go to what is happening, because it becomes less about a goal to attain, but rather, wow, I can see that I will never grasp the fullness of what is, but at the same time, I'm choosing to be a joyful participant in it. And that includes every moment of life, not just when you do some spiritual work or go to a retreat or having amazing sex with your partner. It includes all of the moments. from washing dishes to having an argument to whatever it is, meet it as you would meet God, because it is.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, what would you say are some common roadblocks that people who want to work with you have? They come to you and they say, I'm having this issue. What are some of the things that people have trouble with dealing in their lives that you help them with?
So I feel that it all comes from exactly what we're talking about, the unwillingness to surrender to what is, which comes from identification with our personality, meaning I am a separate entity and I need to mold reality into my own likings. If I'm having this problem, how can I solve it? How can I get in love and fall in love and get into a relationship and set myself to what I want? And what I notice is that when and if they finally clicked and they let go and really get that idea of surrender and start engaging with life from that heart space, not from the mind space that always wants to make it, from the heart space, loving it all, loving my pains, loving my pleasures, loving where I'm at, loving my partner, really meeting all and every moment from the heart. Everything starts to fall into place. Like they start to make more money and the relationship relaxed and they start feeling in much deeper love and connection to their partner, much more satisfying relationships. And whatever the situation is, it starts to just be beautiful. Whether it's painful or pleasurable, it's just wonderful and they can appreciate it. And a lot of incredible things are happening. So they come to me and they want to have more sex, better relationships, better communication, so on and so forth. And they end up getting all of this, but not through, doing, rather through not doing, in a sense.
Sure, yes. Which is counterintuitive, but I can only speak for myself that my life is so much better when I focus on those things that you're talking about.
And so, this is mostly what I see. The challenges are varied. Some people have challenges showing up and being authentic and vulnerable and connecting. Some people have some sexual trauma. I work with a lot of women that have been abused and raped. That's unfortunately a very real reality in our society. I work with a lot of men that haven't yet found the connection between their cock to their heart and still play in the playing field of manipulating women's hearts into being with them, and not from a sinister point of view, because we never experienced anything else. And so we work on that, so connecting everything to the heart and really figuring out what does it mean to devote yourself to a woman fully, even if it's one night or 10 years, doesn't really matter. And some people have some sexual challenges, like, people who are in long-term relationships and kind of like lost the polarity, or some people that find it difficult to express themselves sexually openly and really explore what it is that they want. So, but I feel that whatever it is, when we examine that from the perspective of what does that has to teach me and how beautiful that is, no matter how uncomfortable and painful, that really flipped the script. And things are starting to unfold for them in really beautiful ways, even though it feels counterproductive to the mind. We always want to give me the teaching, give me the technique, give me the meditation, give me the thing that will solve my problems.
Right.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I love the work that you're doing. It's so important. And just to have those resources and to have somebody to go to, I think that everybody can use resources like this and work like this, just working to be present, be connected to yourself, and focus on the connections that you're having in the here and now. It's really incredible.
Yes. It is.
Yeah. Well, can you let people know where they can find you? I know you have a website. Is there social media? This is just kind of your time to promote where people can find you and work with you.
Sure, I would be happy to connect with people, and yeah, and so I have a website. It's Yuval Man, M-A-N, Yuval, Y-U-V-A-L, man.com. There's also my Instagram, which is yuvalman.s, or just Sensual Alchemy. You'll probably find me. And yeah, there's also Facebook. There's a community that you can join. Just connect to me and ask me about that, and I would be more than happy to assist and see how I can help.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today. I feel like it's so funny. I feel like these interviews come at the exact time in my life that I need to learn something from my guest. And I've been working on being present and happy as a state of being so much lately. And so I feel like this was a really important, solidifying conversation for me to have right now.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I was really happy to be here.
Amazing. Well, everybody, thank you so much for listening. Be sure to find Yuval on all the social medias. Check out the website. You have been listening to Wine, Dine, and 69. I am your host, Rachel Dalton, and let's keep talking.